Ladies, let's bring down the house. My mother told me to be a lady, and to her that meant be your own person and be independent. I'm quoting Ruth Bader Ginsburg, notorious RBG. I was at the United Nations some weeks ago for the Commission on the Status of Women, and the chair of the Commission on the Status of Women said, "I have a friend whose daughter wants to be president of the world. Why not? That will be your job in the future." The Secretary General Gutierrez said, "Of course, if that is going to be a position, women are those who can take the job of being president of the world." Why? Because men, he said, they don't ask for directions, and they don't know how to read maps. And women are so smart because they ask for directions. That is bias. That is a stopper to women empowerment. When I was 18 years old and graduated in the Netherlands from quite a conservative high school, my Latin teacher gave me my life's motto. And translated from Latin, it meant, "There is hardly any trial that has not been started by a woman." And perhaps that applies to me, but it's bias. So when I was about to start law school, this was the first time I was subjected to bias. And I ask you, from the days of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, what she went through in law school, one would hope that things change. And when I was in law school in the Netherlands, things had changed. But that doesn't mean that we need more change. She for she, sisterhood. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, be a lady, be independent. I have stories from the women in my life, the women in my family who show what it's like to be a lady, to be independent, and to show courage. In 1920, my grandmother was born in the aftermath of World War I in the Netherlands. She was beautiful, smart, proud, a fierce woman, and driven by humanity and compassion. And that was put to a test during World War II, when she was in her 20s. I see many here who are in their 20s. She and her family, at that point she was an orphan, so she lived with her aunties and uncles, offered their house as a safe place for Jewish families. And my grandmother was arrested by the Nazis. They put her in a cell, and they interrogated her. She did not break. She did not give in, and she did not give them up. That's her courage. That's my grandmother. She's a lady. When she got married in the 50s, she was expected to quit her job because in the 50s she was told the natural place of a woman is in the home. My grandmother. So my mother, who was born in the 50s, said, "I'm not going to be like that." She saw how my grandmother got pocket money, household money from her father. My mother saw how the man was in charge. And my mother, beautiful, fierce, smart, and stubborn, said, "That's not going to be me." And this is what she told me. She said, in those days, the 80s and the 90s, we could have jobs. We could be the wife of a doctor, which is what she was, but we could not have a career. We could not be ambitious. We could not have passion. But she did it anyway. And then she said to me, the hardest part was being held accountable, being judged, being told, "How can you do this to your children?" Who told her? Women. Women judged her. That was the hard part. That was the part that hurts. But she said between my career and my family, I had no time for that. I ended friendships that were just not worth it. I found my women, the women who were like me. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the sisterhood, that is she for she. So when I started my career, I was empowered, I had my DNA, I had my legacy, I knew I was going to be a lady, I was going to be independent, and I had courage. And it wasn't easy. There was still bias. And my mother said to me, when they go high, we go low. No. When they go low, we go high. Do we use vinegar or do we use honey? We use honey. We use our smile. We go high, we use honey, we smile, and we rise above. And we find our sisters, she for she. But it wasn't easy. It took me a long time to understand, as a lawyer and a law professor, that in life, in academia, in law, in the arts, the rules for women are different. But it was a lot harder to accept that the judgment, the rejection, came from women. So then I moved to the United States of America. Were the rules different? No. Was it easier? No. Because the Dutch are feminists. I learned that the United States of America is not the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And I learned that when I would participate in board meetings and I would lead the board meetings and speak up, that the people in the room thought that was not ladylike. But I was taught by my mother that that was ladylike, and I chose to believe her. So things were good. I had the cake and I was eating it. I was married, I had a career, I was healthy and pregnant. And then adversity happened. We were in Bahrain for a short work visit in the Middle East, and my baby was supposed to be born in Paris. But he was born 3 months too soon. In the Middle East, on Eid el-Iftur, in a military hospital. And he didn't breathe. The unimaginable. That you want to die for dies. And Samuel Eid, survived, ended up in an incubator and oxygen, and I was also on the IV. It's the thing that we don't want to live through alone. But I was alone, because this was 2011 in the aftermath of the Arab Spring, and my family could not travel to me because it wasn't safe. My husband was trying to save the issues in the region, and the women, the sisters, the mothers, the daughters of the people he worked with, the female team members came to me. They were there for me, and one said, and I hardly knew them, one said, "You are not alone. We are your sisters. That is the sisterhood, and that is she for she, and that's our lifeline, and that's your lifeline." So I took that and went back to the United States with my healthy family and thought I need to pay it forward. I had a worldwide mentoring system. I mentored young women. I mentored my students. I became part of the Brazil USP delegation for He for She. I met the amazing women of Mulheres do Brasil. And I became a jury member of the United Nations Women Princess Sheikha Sabika Al Khalifa Global Women Empowerment Award. And 3 weeks ago, we gave 4 awards to people who fight for women, who empower them, who contribute to peace, from India to Nepal to Abu Dhabi. The Abu Dhabi police force hires female police officers so that women are the first port of call when there is domestic violence. That is she for she, the sisterhood. I learned that we do need to continue to change laws. everywhere in the world, not just in the West, not just in Europe, not just in the United States. We need to go back to the region in the Middle East and address Sharia principles. And don't tell me it's not possible. And if we have a family law, and if we have a family court, we will train judges. We will train female judges so that they apply it in a way that women everywhere around the world have the same rights. She for she. But I also learned that you can make a change by changing one life, and you can do that. I had students, one from Kenya. She comes from a village where women are subjected to gender mutilation. She was the first woman to become a lawyer in her village, and she became my student. And we're trying to find her a job in the United States of America. I have another student from Bhubaneswar, from India, who came to my program in Miami. And she said to me, "Professor, you changed my life, but I have to go back to India for an arranged marriage." And I said, "Not under my watch." I gave her internships with the World Bank, with a law firm in Washington, D.C., and she is now part of teams fighting for cases in the Permanent Court of Arbitration, the International Court of Justice, in the Peace Palace in The Hague. She will marry one day, but it will be out of love. That is something that you can do. Make one change one life. That is the she for she. Be inspired, find your role models. I've met women, worked for women. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I met her last Saturday. The chair of my firm, Madeleine Albright, who famously has said there is a special place in hell for women who do not support each other. Let's get a place in heaven, she for she. The women with USPI, from Beatriz Paredes to Maristela to Laura Chinchilla. But most of all, I learned that I now need to inspire, and I need to have my mentees. And we all need to do that. So to conclude, ladies, in times of Time's Up, Me Too, the women's marches, remember one thing. We are the drivers of our change. We have to be a sisterhood. So when you start breaking through that glass ceiling, do not cement it. Don't be the queen bee. Keep it open and reach through it. Pull the others up. Reach out your hand, not holding that knife to stab somebody's back, but to have each other's back. That is the only way how we can be the drivers of our change, and that is what I call she for she. Thank you.